Lament poetry has been a major aspect of Irish literature since the 18th century. Although the practice of composing such poetry has recently died out, the published work is still relevant today. The art of composing such literature was done orally through an act known as keening. Keening was performed strictly by women for the death of male family members up until the 19th century in Ireland, and was used as a means of mourning the dead. The most famous keen in this particular genre is the Lament for Art O'Leary. The significance of this particular work lies within the composer Eileen, now seen as a sort of heroine figure, as well as the composition of the keen itself, which has survived several generations.
Art and Eileen eloped at a young age and were fortunate to consider themselves as part of the upper class. They quickly grew a large family and were quite prosperous. Despite the family's high status, they carried a stigma. Art was one of the few Irish Roman Catholics in the area. It was extremely controversial and made it hard to mix in with society. Unfortunately, Art was killed on May 4th, 1773. He was shot on horseback because owning a horse was not acceptable for Catholics. This tragic event prompted Eileen to perform a keen in honor of her husband.
Eileen's keen, originally a spoken performance, is viewed as the longest-standing example of a keen. It survived generations through oral tradition, and her words weren't published until years later. Everything about this work was considered unconventional. Typically, keening women were elderly and poor. They had time to prepare for the loss of their husbands and used many cliches in their performances. Eileen was a wealthy woman and less than 30 years old when her husband was shot. She had lots of children to raise and was pregnant with another on the way. She did not have any time to prepare for Art's passing. Despite her age, upper-class ranking, and lack of experience, Eileen composed one of the most notable and unique keens in history. A result of the publication of the Lament for Art O'Leary is subsequent fame for Eileen. Also known as Dark Eileen and Black-Haired Eileen, she is regarded as the heroine figure of Irish Romantic literature. Comparisons have also been made between Eileen and the Virgin Mary, due to the belief that Mary keened over the body of her son Jesus after his death.
The two main reasons this poem is considered unconventional in the literary sense are that it was composed orally and composed by a woman. Literature during this time was a male-dominated field, mostly due to the discriminatory education system. Society was not accustomed to literary work composed by women. Therefore, Eileen's keen of over 400 lines was greatly misinterpreted and regarded as highly emotional, not skillful.
When analyzed today, Eileen's poem is considered ahead of the times. Her modern skill is evident in her use of rhythmic meter and rhyme, while remaining true to the traditional formula associated with lament poetry. As Angela Burke writes in her article, Performing Not Writing, her true artistry is shown in her aristocratic self-control and literary sensibility.
Eileen also made homage to keens she had witnessed previously through her use of themes, including referencing one of the stages of grief, denial, when she says, "My own beloved dear, now get up on your feet and come home with me." She also makes a reference to another theme, drinking the blood of the dead, when she says, "Your blood was flowing from you. I didn't stop to wipe it. I drank it from my hands." The reputation of the work today is summed up in the words of Osborne Bergen, a friend of Eileen. He says, "It is a poem of great power and beauty, and of the deepest natural pathos, the Lament for Art O'Leary by his wife. It is doubtful if any literature contains so true and powerful an expression of the devotion of a high-minded woman to a noble husband, as shown in her grief after his death."